So I started off with a wireframe, just a really light gauge that I would be able to manipulate. And then from there, I added aluminum foil to bulk everything together. And you'll see the board that it's sitting on. That board just has 2 screws going down into it, and then I wrapped the wiring around that to kind of give him legs and built him up. Lots of twisting. You can see where the wings were. After I got the main body, you can see I started working on the wings. To do the wings, I used multiple layers of aluminum foil, just nice and flat, with layers of hot glue. It creates kind of a leathery material, which is really strong and really durable, and you can bend it, but it also gives you that smooth look. So I wrapped that into the edges and added a decent amount of hot glue just to get that to stay. Getting everything as close as I can to, being bulky so that I can use the less amount of clay. I then shifted over into an app called Procreate, which I use on my iPad. With that app, I started drawing from reference, getting my line work first, and then thinking about color. And again, just trying to capture, what my sculpture is actually supposed to look like. So I look through pictures on Google, find really cool references. I wanted it to be very close to the movie. Same process. Now I'm looking at the side view. And like I was saying, I wanted it to be close to the movie, but definitely free to find a different look based on any pictures that I can find. Thinking about the colors of that lava. A little bit of shading, some highlights. Planned on doing a whip, but I didn't end up able to use it. So the epoxy sculpt shown there is what I used. Is a 2-part epoxy, which you knead together, and I believe you have anywhere from an hour, maybe 30 minutes for it to kind of firm up where you can really manipulate it, and then a couple hours go by and that'll turn really hard. It's very strong, very durable. Really like this material. I'm a ceramics teacher, so I'm used to using clay, and this is very similar. A lot of stuff that I've tried using is too sticky or doesn't really hold its shape, but this epoxy sculpt really does the trick. So I'm constantly looking at references, and I'm thinking about, muscle structure to some degree. Since it's a monster, I'm not, too worried about it being perfect, but I have a few tools that I use, and I also have a brush with some water on the side, which I'll dip into and smooth things out once I get the rough idea in. A few sculpting tools. So I worked up the chest, the rib cage, the abs, the legs and the arms, and then here I'm starting to focus a lot on the head and the facial structure, which I think was the most intimidating part of the whole thing, because you want the face to really look good. Working in the eyes, how the mouth's gonna look, creating the upper and lower jaw. And I think the whole time here I was thinking, how am I going to work on these wings? I really didn't know if this was gonna work. I really like sculpture, and I've done a decent amount of it. Like I said, I teach high school ceramics. We do some sculpture in there as well. So here I'm starting to add on the flattened pieces. But I'd never used this material, really never done a sculpture, anything like this. This was my first time, and I'm pretty happy with the way it came out for the first go around. So, everything's just sped up throughout the time lapse, but I would have worked on this, a day or two here and there. I actually did this project a couple years back, and I've been meaning to make a video, and kind of finally putting one together. And that's really thin, but I spread that out. I was actually running out of material, and I was very determined to only use what I had. So I spread that out really thin as best as I could. It didn't get quite as smooth as I would have liked, but it worked. There I hit it with a black coat of paint once it had dried, and now I'm starting to go in with some details. So adding in the reds and the yellows, again, looking at references and kind of just making it up as I go and hoping that I'm happy with the result. So working up the flames on top of them and then going down the shoulders. There I'm adding in a little bit of kind of a silver, just so that it's not all one single color of black. And once I get all the color in the way I'm happy with it, I add a sealer on there just to try to prevent that paint from falling off getting chipped, scratched, or anything like that. And this also gives it a nice gloss finish at the end. So there's the final results. I used a different material, which I'll link here, but to create the base of the statue, since I ran out of epoxy, I grabbed some stuff from the local shop, carved it in there and painted everything. So I covered the board best I could. And this has actually been sitting on my Lord of the Rings shelf ever since I was a kid. I've been collecting these probably when the movies came out. I started, and I've gotten a few here recently. And that Balrog is the one that I sculpted in the video, and it sits beside the actual official action figures.